bear with me, okay? So first, I want to say good evening and thank you to Nadine and Andrew for hosting us this evening. We really appreciate it. So my name is Jay Schwartz, and I've been asked to speak to you tonight to put a face to the research that is being done by Dr. Justin Ichida at USC and about my friendship with Nancy Ryder. I was Nancy's first business partner back in 1985. I first met Nancy when I moved out here from New York. Her company was Nancy Ryder Public Relations, and we had a little office on the corner of Melrose and Orlando Avenues. Our meeting was going to be at her apartment on Kings Road off Santa Monica on the same block as Hugo's Restaurant. I was so excited and nervous, I left my house with time to spare. However, being a new LA transplant, and since Waze wasn't yet invented, I couldn't find Kings Road. I got so frustrated and even more nervous that the meeting wasn't going to go well because I would be late. Again, cell phones hadn't yet been invented either, and there wasn't a payphone to be found. Well, I finally got there, and Nancy was great, and we hit it off. You see, we're both New Yorkers. Nancy was from Great Neck, Long Island, and I was from Brooklyn. We complimented each other. Our big client at the time was Michael J. Fox. Back to the Future had just come out, and he was starring on Family Ties. It was just Nancy, myself, and her dog, Harlette, a little white Maltese who ran the place. I remember my first day. I brought a cardboard box with me with my Rolodex. Anyone here remember what a Rolodex is?
Yeah.
I see, you know what that is, okay. I still have mine. Nancy and I shared an office with desks on opposite ends of the room. But we wanted to be closer together. So we would take our phones off our desks, they had very long extension cords, and sat down in the middle of the floor, and that's how we worked. We fed off of each other, we laughed, and had fun. Something just clicked between us. We weren't making a lot of money, but as I said, we had fun. Our running joke was, if we could only sign one more client at $1,500, we could pay our bills, all our bills. We wound up spending a lot of time together at work and on weekends because back then it didn't really seem like work. One day late in the evening, we were waiting for Michael to come to the office. Our front door was locked and we heard knocking and then heard, "Let me in, I pay your rent." It was Michael. As time went on and our business began to grow, we were asked to join another company and became Baker Winokur Ryder. That move ultimately proved difficult for me, and it was time for me to move on. That was very difficult for the both of us as we were attached at the hip, and is something to this day that I regret, as I missed our time together. We lost touch for a few years, but here's the wonderful thing about Nancy. We reconnected a few years later and picked up right where we left off, as if no time had passed. She's an amazing human being, the one who would always ask, "How can I help you?" or "What can I do for you?" She would give you the shirt off her back. This is just in her DNA. When you look up the meaning of the word friend in the dictionary, you will undoubtedly see a picture of Nancy that I'm sure she had to have photo approval of. These past 5 years since she was diagnosed with ALS have been difficult. Watching her going from being such a vibrant, outgoing, and very loud person to losing her voice. Our business is all about communication, and Nancy's voice has been silenced. But fear not, she does let us know when she is happy and when she is not. We did a magazine cover photo shoot yesterday with two of her friends and members of Team Nancy, Courtney Cox and Renee Zellweger, and members of Team Nancy. When I got to her house, I got the biggest smile from her, which just filled me up with so much joy and love. She was a trooper, taking pictures for the magazine, but when she was done, she let us know. And by the end of the shoot, I was not getting that smile. I was getting the evil eye, which meant get me the blank out. She has an incredibly naughty sense of humor and a very colorful vocabulary, and a team of people to take care of her, from her caregivers Jerome and Gerald to her best friends Kathy, Tom, Nick, Renee, Courtney, Donald, as well as Cheryl and Asher from the ALS Golden West chapter. We are all lucky and blessed to be in each other's lives. When any of us are called upon, the answer is always, just tell me when and where. Everyone always shows up for Nancy, as she has always done for us. I want to tell you two fun stories about Nancy. The first was Michael J. Fox's wedding. At the time, the National Enquirer was the tabloid to be wary of. Remember, back then, back in the day, there were no cell phones, so no instant photos could be put up on social media. There was no social media. We found out that they were going to do a story on the wedding, and were going to sneak their way in. Well, Nancy, along with Michael's security, came up with a plan to infiltrate the Enquirer. She would go in using her maiden name, Nancy Schwartz. I kid you not, that was her name. No, and I figured no wonder why we hit it off. Schwartz and Schwartz, which should have been the name of our company. And she got a job manning the phones and reporting back to us in real time all the things that the Enquirer was planning to do. The mission was a big success. We foiled their attempt at a salacious story. The next story is about my personal relationship with Nancy. When I started working with her, I had trouble breathing through my nose. Nancy took me to see her doctor. We found out that I had a deviated septum. I didn't even know what that was. So I set an appointment for the surgery. The day finally came, and Nancy arrived first thing in the morning to pick me up to take me in for the procedure. I had no family out here. She was it. When I got in her car and closed the door, we looked at each other and started crying like we were saying goodbye to each other. Now, how ridiculous is that? We've always laughed about that. But the point of this story is she was there for me. She took me there, waited for me, and took me home. Nancy was by my side the whole time. The lesson in our business, which is pretty cutthroat, is there are not a lot of people you can count on to always be there for you unconditionally. But Nancy was. The most valuable lesson Nancy taught me was that relationships and your word were the most important things you can have. Whether it is a relationship with an agent, a manager, another publicist, a client, or a doctor, the relationship will always win out. Nancy is a unicorn, one of a kind. Because of the relationships she has created throughout the years, Team Nancy has raised $715,374 since 2014 for ALS research. And we have no plans of stopping now. We were a force to be reckoned with in 1985, and we are still as she fights this horrible disease. And as for that $1,500 we needed to pay our bills, it came. She believed that the money would always come. Never argue over money, she said. When the clients do better, we will do better. And that's why she became one of the most successful personal publicists in Hollywood history. The next ALS Walk is next Sunday, November 3rd. And you can bet all of Nancy's clients, friends, and families, and members of Team Nancy will all be there. And that is because of the love we all have for her. So I ask you, please come out to support Team Nancy next Sunday. Thank you.